What's up, ladies and gentlemen? The Brew with Matt and Mike is back for I don't even know what episode at this point. But Mike, let's hop right into the game against Ball State, and I'll start with you. What are your biggest takeaways from the battle with Ball State?
Uh, Good morning, first of all. And second of all, we got to
And
figure out which number episode we're on.
yeah, we
Figure
do,
that out.
we do. And
Sorry,
actually,
we'll keep
before we
going.
hop
It's
into
not
the
a
Ball
big deal.
State game, before we hop into the Ball State game, actually, I wanted to get an update from you on you got some exciting stuff going on right now in the world of basketball. If you want to share that with the audience before we talk about Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, a small update for me. So, still living down in Puerto Rico. Still enjoying the sunshine. I know you guys are dealing with some cold now. Good for you.
Oh, yeah.
But I officially got invited to go play for the Puerto Rican 3-on-3 national team. It's been something I've been kind of working towards the last year. Got my FIBA nationality changed, so I can play for the national team down here, and officially got the nod. So we're getting the next couple of weeks. We're preparing to go down to play down in Mexico for what's called the AmeriCup. It'll be down in León, Mexico, which will be super cool. Get to play against a bunch of other national teams. The United States will be there, Mexico, Brazil, Canada, all of North American and Latin America and South American teams will be down there. So it's a big time tournament, and just really excited. Be cool. First time I actually get to play on the international scale, international opportunity. So really, really blessed for the opportunity and excited to do that. Be really fun.
Absolutely. No, congratulations. That's awesome. And I'm excited. Hopefully there's some a link we can share, like a live stream on YouTube or something like that.
It's a big time tournament, so it'll be available on YouTube for sure. So can definitely add that to a few different things, but you guys can check it out and see my old bones hoop and old man basketball, which is 3-on-3, which I'm really excited about.
Let's go. Awesome. So no, I'm fired up for that. Now let's get into Wisconsin versus Ball State. And Mike, just give me the biggest takeaways that you had from the game. Who stood out to you?
Biggest takeaways I really enjoyed about this game was they took care of their opponent pretty early. They were aggressive early. They obviously shots were going in early. Nick Boyd hit a couple of them. Nolan Winter probably had his most fluid shooting game. He was 2 for 3 from three. I really liked the 3-point shot he had on the top of the key. Looked the most confident in his stroke that I've seen all season. And his rhythm and timing on his jumper looked great for those 2 makes he had. So really, really thought that was a really positive thing in terms of confidence for him moving forward. I really enjoyed the experimentation that Coach Gard had. He kind of saw early that the Badgers were definitely in an upper class compared to Ball State. They were just bigger, more athletic. And he used this game to try and figure out some different lineups. At one point, he had Carrington, Andrew Rohde, and Hayden Jones in the game as their guard lineup. So he gave some opportunities to those guys. And then we were talking a little bit before the show. We really like Blackwell. And to be honest with you, I really like the other big. Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Blackwell, Rapp,
Garlock, thank you. Will Garlock. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Will. No, he did a great job. He had 3 great passes to Blackwell on a high-low. So, they were running their European motion where they were swinging it to the top, and Ball State was switching it. And Blackwell did a great job of, taking advantage of the smaller man and sealed really well. And Will Garlock hit him with 3 high-low passes for layups. So that was really great to see. Will Garlock actually has a pretty nice passing ability out of the top. And so for me, seeing those guys kind of continue to develop, especially those bigs coming off the bench, is huge. And it was just great to see that the ball was popping. That was my other thing that I really noticed. They had 2 or 3 possessions in transition where guys threw skip passes in transition. A couple of them, led to buckets, and the other couple that they had led to just wide open threes. So it was guys were pushing the ball ahead, they pitched to the head, they skipped it, and then it was a skip to a swing. And when you see that type of ball movement, it's really hard for defenses. It puts a lot of pressure on them to be connected. And obviously Ball State, did what they could, but it was great to see that. And moving forward, hopefully they can, continue to build on what they had to. One negative was they got a little bored. They got a little sloppy at the end of the first half. They were kind of taking it to Ball State, and then Ball State made a couple of small adjustments of denying that swing, that pass to the middle to get the ball to the other side. So they denied that, and then they started playing some zone. And that's one thing that this team is going to have to figure out is how to score against zone. I think they're going to be a really great man offensive team, but figuring out where to find, how to pressure gaps, how to find the open man. And they did a much better job in the second half. They rebounded really well out of it. So overall, really good game. And like I said, really great to see some guys step up and find some more fluidity and confidence. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and you talked about they got bored, but to start the game, I thought they played almost perfect basketball. I mean, it's impossible to play perfect basketball. It's the most disciplined team is going to turn the ball over in college 8-9 times a game, even more. But at the beginning of the game, they came out and it made me think of like Karate Kid. They were showing no mercy. They were getting it high-low because Ball State was switching a ton, and they were just feeding the post. It wasn't like guards like, hey, let's work on some things. It was like, no, we're going for the throat. And yeah, they were taking advantage of all the switches that Ball State would do that would lead to crazy mismatches, all the ball screens off the off-ball screens. And yeah, so they took advantage of crazy matchups. Were feeding the post. Then they were hitting shots. I mean, Boyd got out to a really quick 8 points, and all 8 of those points were really, really difficult. I mean, that one kind of mid-range, just one-handed push shot that was like between a jump shot and a floater. I mean, that's just tough. And
that was a crazy shot.
Unbelievable.
That's hard.
And that didn't go in.
Shot.
But you know what? What's so crazy to me also is that I would have never imagined Greg Gard letting a team shoot the way that this team shoots, or last year's team. Some of the shot selection, it's just like, what would the Gard of 2022, 2023 say to some of these shots? They would be getting pulled and they wouldn't go back in the game. So I give Gard props once again for adapting to college basketball. And also, if he started pulling guys, they would just hit the portal. I mean, that's just the day and age we're in. But yeah, super hot start. And then, like you said, they got bored. They lost their focus a little bit, and they started getting sloppy midway through that first half. I believe they had 7 turnovers in the first half, finished with 15 on the game. But it was looking like Wisconsin was going to absolutely run them out of the gym with a ridiculous score. But it's hard to hit shots at that clip. But I love the intensity that Wisconsin came out with on the defensive end. Yes, they were hitting shots. That helps. But they were ready to roll, and then they lost their focus a little bit. And a question I'll ask for you, Mike, is when you're playing an inferior team, a mid-major of Ball State's quality, how hard is it to lock in for a full 40 minutes?
I think it's hard to lock in for a full 40 minutes when you're playing against really good teams. It's something that takes time. And the more games you go through, the older you become, the more basketball you play, you kind of figure out how to lock in and really, pay attention to detail. And especially in these earlier season games, when you're in these non-conference games where you should win by a bigger margin, and you execute early and you're like, man, this is going to be easy the whole game. It's a natural instinct. And that's where you got to lean on your older guys to kind of lock in and be like, hey, you need more coaches on the floor. You need your players to be leading that charge, not necessarily the coaches. But it's a challenge. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's really a challenge when you kind of look over and you're like, man, we're already up. I think they were up like 30-8 or something like that. Mm-hmm. They really, like you said, they really locked up the very first part of the first half. The first half of the first half, they were doing a great job of walling up. They were long, they were athletic, they were shutting off driving lanes, taking care of the paint touches. So. It's a challenge, but it's also, something that is growing and maturing. And as they get in, also, it was one of those things where, once again, we talked about Coach Gard experimenting. Some of those things where you get into games like that is allowing your coach to experiment. And when you do that as a coach, sometimes the intensity drops off a little bit, or there's just a little bit of wonkiness, as I would say, of just like, hey, there's not quite the same chemistry I would have with my normal rotations. We're going to try a few things here. We're going to work on some different stuff because, we're not necessarily in practice. This is a game situation. So I want to see what I can do with who I can do it with. And so some of that happened as well. He went to a couple of different rotations and a couple of different lineups that, started to lessen the intensity. I know he took Boyd out for a little bit. Nolan Winter picked up a couple of fouls. Blackwell had his little struggles there for a second. So overall, not super worried, but it's a difficult task. And especially for kids that are in college. I am getting paid, which is something different that I got to keep reminding myself. These guys are getting paid, but they're still young, they're still developing, they're still understanding like the finer points of the game, and that doesn't even really matter. You got guys at the professional level, the NBA, EuroLeague, high levels of professional basketball that will come out flat, come out unfocused, or they'll get up 20 and all of a sudden, instead of being up 20 by the end of the half, it's back down to 9. So it's just one of those things that it's a learning experience, and as they go through the season, I'm sure they'll tighten it up. And it gave Coach Gard some good clips and film for them to clean up to make sure that for the next game they're ready.
Yeah, and you talk about the experimentation. I do find it interesting that Gard is really limiting the minutes of his guys right now, and I wonder if that just is a longevity thing. Experimenting different lineups, seeing what works, but also you don't want tired legs come March. And you see Boyd only playing 19 minutes. You see Winter playing 20, Rohde 20, Rapp 25, and then Blackwell led the starters with 26. And yeah, so I think that is interesting. I'll remember the starters playing this few minutes early in the season in past years. So it is interesting, especially when you have all these new guys. You have to experiment and you have to try figuring out what works, what gels, and using these early games against the mid-majors. And I think Gard kind of did this intentionally, where the first few games were against mid-majors, so they can kind of ease their way into tougher competition. BYU's going to be coming up soon. You got Marquette less than a month away. So I like the way Gard set up his schedule. And then another point I will make is 36.8% from three. You like to see that. And they were shooting really well at the beginning of the game. So a lot of that came from the beginning. And then towards the end of the game, they started shooting really well, or that second half. But yeah, my next question for you, Mike, and discussion point is Nolan Winter. Been a consistent topic on this show between you and me. Went 19 points, 10 boards, 3 blocks in 20 minutes. Where do you think he is right now? We talk about his NBA potential. Where do you think he is as a player, and how far away is he still from reaching his ceiling?
He's close to averaging a double-double if he isn't already averaging a double-double. I don't have his averages in front of me, but I know he had like 17 and 14. He's been consistent in terms of what he's doing. He's been around the rim. He's been attacking the rim. He had a big putback dunk of just running the floor. He's been a solid big man right now, and it's a little bit more challenging to kind of see where he is developmentally wise, is because he hasn't. Outside of the Oklahoma scrimmage, right? Like that's the only really time he's seen size that can match his athleticism, right? And that's really where we're going to start seeing some stuff, is when we get into the BYU, when you start getting into the meat of this schedule, and you start getting into these games that are going to be more high profile, and that you're going against, other guys that are, potentially NBA players, high lottery picks, and guys that are going to be high level professional players. That's when you really start to see where his maturation is. I think, he's doing what he needs to do right now against the competition he's doing it against. But, Ball State had one guy coming off the bench that was 6'9". Everybody else was 6'6", 6'7". And that's just, and then all of a sudden, they can move like some of those guys that are at high majors, but they're not high major size, So for me, I think he's doing great. I think the biggest thing for him is just being able to find consistency with his three-point stroke, because if he does that, that really makes him a bigger threat, right? That piece unlocks everything else. So just getting confidence, getting consistency with that three-pointer, finding his legs, finding his shot rhythm, super important for him. And we'll really be able to see where he's at by the end of December. This next month for them, I know they got some big games coming up. They got, big tournaments coming up with the potential of, matching up against Florida. I watched their game the other day. They got some real talented bigs. That Florida team is really talented. They got to go and beat, I can't remember who they have to win to get into that finals, but they got some really great competition coming up. And that's where we're really going to see where this team is at. These early games, good tune-ups, get to see guys, get to gel, get to mesh. But once we get into those competitions where, their first big matchup is against BYU, that's going to really tell us a lot about where this team is at.
It will. And one thing I said heading into the season is I would really like to see Nolan Winter put the ball on the floor a little bit this season. We saw him do it once last year and it looked really good. We saw him do it once against Oklahoma. Had a nice runner from about like 12, 13. I don't know if that's exactly what we want to see. He made it in the game. But yeah, I haven't seen him put the ball on the floor. And I believe that is the next big step he needs to take in his game. Is not doing it all the time, but being able to be a threat to put the ball on the floor. And that could come with being able to shoot better, as you kind of said. But I really think that he needs that to be a potential NBA player. Frank the Tank, that's what made him a unicorn. The man could put the ball on the floor at 7 feet tall. And right now, Nolan Winter's not at that point. And Frank, it took him a little bit his junior year. He had that 43-point game against North Dakota State. Took him a bit to get rolling, or just North Dakota, not North Dakota State. But took him a minute to kind of get rolling and become the guy. But I think that, yeah, I right now, only 3 games in, we're going to learn a lot more. But if I had to guess, I think it's probably going to be advisable for Winter to come back for his senior year. It's early for me to say that, but that's just a prediction that I'm making right now. And so just a little bit of other stuff from the game. I would say Carrington is looking better than I expected right now. 12 points, 4 rebounds. Looks like a solid physical body. He can hopefully do a little dirty work, hit a shot here and there. And then Blackwell is going to be a real asset coming off the bench. 6 points, 8 boards. Looks like he can stretch the floor and just be a solid body to play against the size Wisconsin's going to see this year. So liking what I'm seeing from this team. I'm remaining quite optimistic. Mike, before we kind of head into our last 2 segments, any other notes from the game, or are you ready to move on?
No, ready to move on. Like what you said with Belauskis is he's looking like, he's been part of a professional program, which he has been one of the better, youth programs in Zalgiris. He played for their under 22 team. I've played in Lithuania before, know how those guys work. Played against Zalgiris. It's a really well run professional club. In terms of if you don't know about it, EuroLeague, they have had one of the smallest budgets in EuroLeague for, 15, 20 years. And they have won the most well-run organization, organization and team, like 5 or 6 times in the EuroLeague. So just so you guys understand where he's coming from, they do a great job in that country, and especially the program he's coming from. So I'm really not surprised by him being able to step up, and why you like him so much. He's got a really good foundation, and like you said, he's going to be a big asset for them, and I agree with you on that completely.
Yeah, and then I'll say Boyd, hot start from Boyd. I'll just mention that again. Boyd, I am quite optimistic about that Boyd-Blackwell combination, and yeah, let's just hope that Boyd shoots as well. That's like the 40th time I've said that, but let's hope he continues to shoot like he did in previous years, because then that just raises Wisconsin's ceiling big time. And then this next segment I came up with. So Mike was a very good college player, but he has improved significantly as a pro. And this next segment for Mike, and he's a confident guy, which I like. I'm going to ask him, who does he think wins in a one-on-one matchup, himself or this player? And we're going to go with Mike Bruzewicz right now. And then maybe in the next one, we can do Mike Bruzewicz in his prime. But for Badger fans who haven't seen Mike play, the dude is an absolute knockdown shooter as a pro. Super high basketball IQ, as you can probably tell from just listening to our episodes. Mike knows the game of basketball. He's a smart player, fluid at the pro level. And he's a vet. He's been around the block. He's a savvy vet. So let's get right into this, Mike. Who's winning a game of one-on-one? We can kind of make this rapid fire. I mean, maybe a brief explanation. We'll kind of make this rapid fire. You, Sam Decker, and this is best out of 10. If we're playing 10 times, who's winning the majority? And both guys are going for the kill, going for the win. Bruzewicz right now versus Sam Decker. Who's winning more times out of 10?
I'm going to give it to Sam. Sam, I got to play against Sam when he was a freshman. He was still this big, just a little guy. He was, but he was still killing as a freshman. I played against him when I was a junior, and he came in as a senior in high school. Got to see him a lot. If you're not really familiar with where Sam is at right now, honestly, I believe he should be in EuroLeague. He should be in the second best league in the world right now, but he's actually in the best domestic league in the world right now. He's playing in Barcelona for a team called Badalona. Second season there. Yeah, Sam is tough, man. Like, he's a little bit bigger than me. I'm 6'6.5", 6'7" with shoes on. Sam's about 6'7", 6'8", and his wingspan is longer than mine. In terms of his creativity with the basketball, I think he is just more athletic than me, especially right now. I'm an old guy now. I'm getting up there. I've had a couple surgeries. Things are happening. But overall, yeah, like, I'm not too proud to say that Sam has actually had a better professional career than I have, and overall is probably a better player than I have been. But that's really not a surprise. He was a McDonald's All-American. He was a first-round draft pick, played in the league for a while, played at a lot of high-level places in Europe, played in Euro Cup, played in Basketball Champions League. I think his last step is going to be in EuroLeague, and I would not be surprised if he doesn't make it there next year, depending on if he wants to or not. I believe he should be in the EuroLeague. He was in Euro Cup, playing in London with one of my former teammates, Jordan Taylor, and was an absolute monster there. So for me, I'm probably going to take the L on that, and that's okay. Sam's a really good player, and I'm fine with that.
All right, next one is Aleem Ford. In your last game this past season, you had 21 against Aleem Ford in Puerto Rico. Who's winning 1-on-1 more times out of 10?
I had 23. Thank you very
23.
much. Season high. I don't know. I think Aleem, it's funny because when you play in 5-on-5, it's a little bit different than when you play 1-on-1. I haven't seen, what he was asked to do here in PR. He's more of a stretch 4, wing player, 3. Wasn't asked to do a lot of stuff with the basketball. I think it'd be a good game. For me, I think it comes down to who's shooting the ball better. If I'm knocking shots down, I think we'd have a chance. I would, take it pretty easily. If he's knocking shots down, then we're in a battle, right? Like it's one of those things. So it's more who shoots the ball better. But selfishly, I'm going with recency bias, going with the red bearded, long haired, Fabio looking guy, Mike Brusewitz.
Let's go. We'll do a few more here. Andrew Rohde. Who's taking that more times out of 10?
I'm giving Rohde the business. Nah, we're not dealing with that. I'm giving him the business. Like, he's good. He's a good player. I'm just grown. I'm giving him the business. That's just where I'm at. But AJ I think Storr. Also one AJ Storr. AJ Storr would be an interesting matchup. I think in terms of he's a pure scorer. He did a lot of isolation for Wisconsin. Athletically, I'd have to see him in person. But in terms of just consistency, that's one of the things for me as I look at college guys is just the consistency factor. And if he's knocking shots down, it's going to be tough because he's got a quick first step, and especially to his right hands, he's got a nice little pull up off of his left. He's a good offensive player. It's more just, what is his 3 ball looking like that day? But, assuming that I'm shooting the ball well, I'm going to take myself in a 3-point or 4-point victory, depending on what we're playing up to.
Okay. So you're taking more out of 10. And then I got 3 more. John Blackwell.
Okay. John presents some interesting problems just because he's a little bit smaller and physically he's talented. And he's got a really, really nice mid-range game. And he plays a lot in mid-range and isolation. So the thing I'm looking to do at that point is I am just trying to make sure he doesn't get to his left hand because he pulls up off his left hand really well and force him into, I'm 6'7", so there's aspects of being longer and being bigger that are going to allow me to play with more space. But he's scored on guys like me all the time. So, but still, once again, consistency. If I'm shooting the ball well, I'm kind of difficult to deal with too. So, for me, because he's a college kid, but I think for a one-on-one player, I'll give Blackwell the edge today. I'll give him the edge today just because he's a little bit more of a one-on-one guy where I'm looking to play more team basketball. My one-on-one skills are there, but I'll give him the nod right now.
All right, last 2, Max Klesmit.
I'm giving him the business.
Brad Davison.
Giving him the business. Absolute business, especially right now. Yeah, what? Giving Brad Davis. Actually, I don't know about Brad. Brad hits some tough shots. I'm actually, You know what? I'm taking my previous pick back to. I'm giving John Blackwell the business. I'm 6'7". He's gonna have to deal with me. I'm hitting shots over him, punch step backs. I can do that. That's fine. Brad Davidson, he'd be a little bit more difficult. He just finished a professional season. He is a professional guard. Um, it's funny. When I would always play, coaches would be like, man, you can't let him do that. And it'd be like, well, he gets paid to play too. So if he doesn't do that, he loses his job. So there's a certain point where you got to give some stuff up. But I think me and Brad would have a good competition. Defensively, he's okay. I don't remember him moving super well laterally, but I do know he's got a quick first step. So um, I'm taking myself just because I can shoot over the top of these guys. That's the one thing is like when we get to smaller guys, like the ability to just like shoot over the top of him and get to spots and just be an old man who shoots a lot of turnarounds now. I think I got that.
All right, and now you want to take us into our last segment, and we'll wrap this on up.
Yeah, perfect. So we're back into our segment of pros questions for the Joes. Pro versus Joe's advice. So this is our segment of kind of leaning on some of my experiences and some advice that I would like to give to guys that are coming out of college and everything like that. So we're going into the land of, we're going to go back into the future in a different timeline where our very own Matt Michaels is over here, and he was getting busy in college. He was averaging 16 points a game on this new version of the Wisconsin Badgers, where they're more about pushing pace, less about running the shot clock down. He averaged about 16 points a game. He was averaging 4 or 5 assists. Had a really really good year. Was all Big Ten second team, and had a great season. Defensively, it was okay. Wasn't great for you this year. Let's be honest. You're not really a defensive juggernaut, but you are a walking bucket right now. So that being said, the NBA is not going to be a path for you right now, just because we talked about it a little bit earlier with some of our guys in Wisconsin. You would be technically in the building. You're in the same hotel as the NBA guys, but you're not on the same floor of those NBA guys. It just is what it is. Physically, you don't have the gifts. You're not jumping 45 inches. You don't have an overly crazy wingspan. You're just a really, really good basketball player. So for you, where do you think you should go? Do you think you should make your jump to Europe? Do you think you need to, where do you think you should go to continue your basketball at the professional level? And the NBA G League and the NBA are options that we're going to take off the table for you.
Yeah, no, I feel like I have the correct answer here, and that is China. China is not known for the greatest defense, and yeah, the CBA, the Chinese Basketball Association. I will take my talents over to China, and I will put up big numbers there, just like Jimmer Fredette did, just like Joe Young is doing these days. Yeah, if you want to get a lot of buckets, you're going to China. That's my final answer.
So that is a great answer for you. That is something that I would agree with. And instead of actually saying going to China or the CBA, because of you are fresh out of college, and you didn't average over 20. So if you average over 20, the CBA would actually be a very valuable option for you. But because you're still in college, you only average 16, which is a lot in the Big Ten. It's not that it's not. You're going to have to actually start in a different league. You're going to have to go a little bit lower. China specifically is for guys, especially the CBA, because they're handing out big contracts, $1 million+ contracts over there. Depending on who you are, and especially if you don't have any MBA on your resume, that's kind of the biggest deterrent for you right now. But I would actually recommend you go play in Taiwan. Taiwan makes a bunch of players. There's 2 really good leagues over there. You can make a lot of money playing basketball. Plus, the style fits you very, very well. Also, Japan. Depending on who you are, because you're 6'3", 6'4", you're more of a wing scorer. When you go to Japan, they really want big guys, but if you go to Taiwan, there's a couple of different imports, and they almost always have a scoring wing. So for you, Asia would be an excellent opportunity for you. And the thing is, when you get over to Asia, all those leagues watch each other. So you would not only be able to make a bunch of money in Taiwan, you do well there, then you can jump up to the CBA pretty well. There's also a secondary league in China called the NBL. The National Basketball League over there. It's a little bit shorter, can make a bunch of money there. But for your talents and for guys that are looking to go to a place where they get a bunch of shots and they want to make a bunch of money, I would definitely recommend Taiwan. There's some very good money to be made in the Philippines, especially if you don't know this. There's actually a 6'6" and under league. So if you're under 6'6", yep, it's pretty crazy. You get off the plane and they measure you. They literally, like, that's the first thing they do. They don't drug test you, don't give you apartment. They just, all right, lay down on a table and see if you're actually 6'6". If you are a centimeter over, they send you home. So, yeah, those are the things that I would recommend for you. Go check out Asia. Basketball is not quite as high level in terms of the quality and the IQ, but in terms of the production value, the fans, and just the style of play, it's really, really fun.
Let's go. Well, Mike, appreciate the insights and another great conversation on the Brew with Matt and Mike, and we'll have more episodes for you guys in the future. Hit the subscribe button, share this with a friend, and thank you for making it to the end of the video, and we will see you soon.